The Steelers bringing Minkah Fitzpatrick back sounds like one of those crazy fan ideas until you actually look at the path for how it could happen. Nobody is saying the Jets are trading him tomorrow. Nobody is saying New York is going to give him away before they even see what the season looks like. But this is the NFL, and when a team starts losing early, that front office starts looking at the roster a whole different way. The Jets can talk all summer about leadership culture, veteran presence, fixing the back end of the defense. All of that sounds good in June and July when everybody is undefeated, but if they start the season 0-4 or 1-4 and the offense looks dead, the defense is worn out, and the fan base is already checked out before Halloween, now the conversation changes. Now that same veteran safety they added to stabilize things becomes one of the few pieces they can actually move for value, and that is where Pittsburgh has to be awake. The Jets got him cheap, so if things fall apart, they do not have to act like he is some untouchable investment. They can flip him and tell their fans they turned a short-term move into a better draft pick. That is how bad teams start selling when reality hits, and from the Steelers' side, that is when Omar Khan should be sitting there with the phone in his hand. Because this is not just some cute reunion story. This is not just fans wanting an old jersey back in the building. This is Pittsburgh looking at the defense and admitting the one spot that feels incomplete is the exact spot Minkah used to cover up. The Steelers have pass rushers. They have a front that can make quarterbacks uncomfortable. They have tough safeties. They have guys who can hit, tackle, blitz, and play around the box. But who is the true free safety? Who is the real center field guy? Who is the player sitting deep? You are not trading for a random name. You are not bringing in somebody who has to learn what Pittsburgh is about from scratch. You are bringing back a player who already walked into this building once and changed the entire feel of the defense. He knows the stadium. He knows the fan base. He knows the pressure. He knows what the standard is supposed to look like. And the Steelers would not need him to come back and be the whole defense by himself. They would need him to do what this safety room does not naturally have right now: sit in the deep middle, clean up the explosives, communicate bait quarterbacks, and give the pass rush a chance to turn pressure into turnovers. That is why the Jets' collapse part matters, because if New York is winning, forget it, they keep him and try to make the move look smart. But if they are losing ugly, that contract starts looking different, that timeline starts looking different, and Pittsburgh should be the team ready to take advantage. Sometimes the best trade is not the one you force in the offseason. Sometimes it is the one you wait for when another team panics. And if the Jets panic, the Steelers better not be sitting around acting like they do not know exactly what Minkah could still give them. The worst thing Pittsburgh could do is be stubborn about it just because moving on already happened. Smart teams correct problems fast. They do not sit there protecting pride while the film shows the same issue every week. If the deep middle becomes a weakness and a proven answer is sitting on a bad Jets team, you make the call and let the rest of the league react after. The football part of this is what makes it so easy to sell, because the Steelers do not just need another safety, they need a specific type of safety. There is a difference between having tough defensive backs and having a true free safety who can control space. Pittsburgh has plenty of toughness. Nobody's questioning that. Deshaun Elliott brings that edge. Brisker brings that same type of downhill attitude. Those are the kind of players Steelers fans always love, because they make receivers feel it, they make tight ends think twice, and they bring that old school nasty to the defense. But that does not automatically fix the deep middle of the field. You can be a good football player and still not be the guy who sits 15 yards deep, reads the quarterback's eyes, rotates late, cuts off a post, and turns a panic throw into a turnover. That is a totally different job. That is what Minkah was for this defense when he was at his best. He was not just making interceptions because the ball magically found him. He was changing the picture before the quarterback even let it go. That matters with a defense like this, because Pittsburgh is built to create pressure. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Cam Hayward, Benton, all of those guys are trying to make the quarterback rush his process, but pressure only turns into game-changing plays if the back end is ready to punish the mistake. If the quarterback gets hit and the ball floats, somebody has to be there. If the quarterback feels heat and throws blind into the middle, somebody has to make him pay. If a corner is playing aggressive and the receiver tries to stack him deep, somebody has to be over the top. That is where a real free safety changes everything. It is not just about the plays he makes. It is about the throws he erases before they happen. It is about the confidence he gives the corners. It is about the extra half second he gives the rush, because quarterbacks cannot just see open grass and let it rip. Right now, the Steelers have a safety room with useful pieces, but useful pieces are not the same as a player who gives the entire defense a different ceiling. That is why bringing Minkah back would not feel forced, that it would fit the roster better than almost any random deadline move. You would not be asking him to come in and play hero ball. You would be putting him in the one role where his skill set still has real value. Let the hitters stay closer to the action. Let Elliott be physical. Let Brisker bring that tone. Let Ramsey move around if that is part of the plan. Let the corners challenge routes instead of playing scared of every deep shot. Then put Minkah back there as the guy who cleans up the mess, and suddenly the defense makes more sense. That is the part I would hammer in a video. This is not nostalgia. Nostalgia is buying a jersey because you miss the old days. This would be roster building. This would be admitting that the Steelers can have a nasty defense and still be missing the one ingredient that keeps nasty from becoming reckless. Because if you have all these guys flying downhill and nobody truly protecting the top, teams are going to test you. They are going to use play action. They are going to throw deep crossers. They are going to try to make the safety room communicate under stress. And in a big game, one missed rotation can be the difference between a punt and a touchdown. Minkah gives you a chance to calm all of that down. Maybe he is not 23 years old anymore. Maybe he is not the same exact player he was when he first got to Pittsburgh. That is fine. The Steelers do not need a time machine. They need a smart, proven, ball-aware safety who understands spacing, understands quarterbacks, and understands how to play winning football in this city. If the Jets are losing and he becomes available, Pittsburgh should not be sitting there debating whether the idea is too emotional. The better question is simple. Does he fill the hole? Yes. Does he know the building? Yes. Does he make the secondary more complete? Yes. Then stop overthinking it. The trade price is why this storyline gets even more interesting, because if the Jets are bad, Pittsburgh would not have to walk in with some massive offer that empties the cabinet. This is not a first-round pick conversation. This is not some blockbuster where you are begging a contender to give up a player in his prime. This would be a bad team with a veteran safety staring at another lost season, trying to get something back before the deadline. That is why a conditional day 3 pick makes sense. Maybe it starts as a 6th, maybe it becomes a 5th if Minkah plays a certain amount of snaps, or if the Steelers make the playoffs, or if the defense hits a certain mark. Something like that gives the Jets a clean way to sell it. They can say they added a veteran. The season did not go how they wanted, and instead of holding on to him on a team going nowhere, they turned him into future value. Fans might not love it, but they would understand the logic if the team is already buried. And for the Steelers, that price should be nothing if they are serious about winning. I like draft picks as much as anybody, but you cannot treat a 5th or 6th like it is sacred when your roster is already close and the need is obvious. A day 3 pick might become a rotational player 2 years from now. Minkah could help you win a playoff game this year. That is the difference. This is where Pittsburgh has to be aggressive before another team makes the move. If the Ravens needed a safety and a player like this became available, they would call. If the Chiefs saw a hole like this, they would call. If the Eagles thought a veteran defensive back could patch one weakness before January, they would call. So why should the Steelers sit there and pretend they are above it? They should be one of the first teams checking in if New York starts unloading, and the full circle part makes the story even better. Minkah came to Pittsburgh the first time and instantly changed the tone of the defense. That trade gave the Steelers a ball hawk, a communicator, a playmaker, and a player who made every quarterback feel like the deep middle was dangerous. Then years later, after moving on and trying to reshape the room, the Steelers could get a chance to bring him back because the Jets are doing what the Jets always seem to do, turning September hope into October panic. That is a script by itself. The Steelers never really replaced him. The Jets could waste him, and Pittsburgh might get one more chance to fix the back end before the games get serious. That is the angle I would push hard. Not that the Steelers should beg, not that they should overpay, not that they should act desperate. Just stay ready. Watch the Jets. If they lose early, if the locker room gets frustrated, if the standings get ugly, if their front office starts taking calls, that is when Omar Khan needs to move fast, because this defense does not need another box safety. It does not need another tough guy whose best work is near the line. It needs a true free safety, the kind of player who can line up deep and make the whole operation feel safer. Minkah gives you that. He gives you a player who can clean up the deep shots, organize the back, and take advantage of rush throws and make this defense feel complete again. And imagine what that does for the fan base. You are sitting there watching the Jets fall apart, hearing Minkah's name start floating around, and then Pittsburgh brings him back for a real playoff push. That would light the city up. That would tell everybody the Steelers are not collecting names. They are fixing problems. And if you are trying to sell a win-now defense, that is exactly the kind of move you make, because when January comes, nobody cares about the 5th-round pick you saved. They care about whether your defense can get off the field, whether you can stop the explosive play, whether your pass rush can turn pressure into turnovers, and whether your secondary has somebody back there who actually scares quarterbacks. If the Jets are bad enough to make that possible, Pittsburgh should be all over it.